The most important thing as an artist who is just starting out is to make sure that your music is good. Hey everybody, it's Madeleine and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be delving into, and before I get any hate for this, these are just my opinions of, as an independent artist who's just starting out, what is worth and what isn't worth spending your money on. We live in such like a consumerist advertising age where it's like spend money, rah, rah, rah. It can get a little bit overwhelming. So I've been releasing original music every single month for 2025. We're in August now. It's going really well. It's been really hard and I've learned a lot of lessons along the way, and one of those lessons is what is worth spending your money on and what isn't. Number one, do not, as an independent artist with a small budget, spend any money on advertisement. It is the biggest waste of money. Major record labels who are promoting singles know that you have to spend so much money on advertisement to cut through the noise. If you're only spending a small amount of money on advertising, you are just throwing that money away. There is no point spending a small amount on advertising. You either spend masses or you don't spend any, in my opinion. There's so much noise on social media and there's so much advertisement at the moment, and also me included. Whenever I see a video come up on my For You page and it says ad at the bottom, I instantly scroll, and I know so many people are like that because everyone is sick of advertisements at the moment. As an independent artist, you are better off spending your money on equipment and getting incredible music out there that showcases you as you would want to be heard. One thing I would spend your money on is getting some really good equipment. So I personally use a PreSonus interface. I have an Apple MacBook and I use an Aston Origin microphone for all of my vocal recordings, and I have a Roland electric keyboard. I then have a jack lead and an XLR lead that all link from the piano and the microphone into the interface, a USB-C cable straight from the interface to my laptop. And that is my setup. I was very kindly given by my ex-boyfriend actually 2 big monitors for Christmas last year. So I do have 2 monitors, but they are not a necessity at all. Some really good closed back headphones are also a big must in my opinion, especially if you're going to be recording vocals, because you don't want any bleed when you're listening to the song and recording the vocals, or you want to kind of minimize that bleed, and it just sort of helps you hear the song in really good quality as you're working on it on your DAW. I would purchase as well Logic Pro if you have the finances to do so, and with that whole setup you can literally make all the music that you want to. There are free platforms that you can use as well, like GarageBand, that are really good for making songs if you don't yet have the finances to purchase Logic Pro. Do not waste your money on those big companies that try and sell you a whole music video package. What a waste of money. You're going to be spending thousands hiring a set, camera people and all the assistants and extras and stuff you want in your music video. If you have not yet built up an organic following on social media, no one's gonna care that you've made the swankiest, fanciest music video. You are better off spending that $2,000 that you would have spent on this company to make your music video on making your next song. A huge money saving tip for you is if you can learn to do as much yourself. And music production can seem really scary to begin with, but I promise you, once you start using the softwares, it becomes so simple and really addictive as well, because you can then suddenly create sounds that are really exciting and you're like, yeah, I want to do more of that. Ultimately, that is going to save you a lot of money in the long run, because then you're not having to pay someone to produce a song for you. If you are completely reliant on someone else producing a song for you, and not that there is anything wrong with that, by the way, we all work differently, you are going to be spending a lot of money on that producer, and it might pay off because the song might be incredible and might be streamed loads of times and you'll make the money back, which is obviously what we would want, but it's a huge upfront cost, and often that producer will require a royalty split. But if you can, learning production, even just basic production levels, are going to save you money. For transparency, I don't completely produce all of my songs, so I write all of the parts in like MIDI format, and then I'll send them to session musicians and they'll record them back, and often it will actually be a little bit of back and forward of like what we think would work best for the song. I then get all the raw stems and I sort of edit them and chop them up a little bit and mishmash them around to fit the song best. I then track my own vocals, so I record all of that like literally in my bedroom. For the final mixing stages, I actually do outsource the final mix and mastering because I don't yet have those skills, but I am trying to learn and really want to get to a point where I can do all of that myself, because ultimately that would save me a fair amount of money. Ultimately, the only thing that I would spend money on, in my opinion, as an independent artist starting out, is just getting really good quality recordings and good quality songs. That being said, I do not think, depending on the instrument that you're trying to record, that studio hire is that essential. If you can record in your bedroom, whoever you're living with, you know, family or friends are okay with you making a little bit of noise for a couple of hours, do it in your bedroom. Don't waste money on a fancy studio just because it looks fancy and it's going to look good on your Instagram. Studios are really expensive. They can put a lot of pressure on songwriting and recording, because if you are on a tight budget, you know, you don't have the time to be playing around with things and messing about, which is what songwriting is all about. It's experimentation, and if you don't have that like experimentation time, I think sometimes studio recording can sound really rushed, because you know, you can only afford a couple of hours in the studio, and if you don't get the recording that you need, it can put a lot of pressure on yourself and it can generally be a kind of unpleasant experience. Another thing that I wouldn't spend money on as an independent artist just starting out is a fancy camera and a fancy video recording setup. Your phone is absolutely fine. This is being recorded on my phone. It's not the best quality in the world, but I hope, you know, I'm still able to connect with you, and if you just record things on your phone, you're still able to connect with your audience. Often I think more organic looking content, kind of like less lower quality content in a weird way, can sometimes be more effective in connecting with an audience, because you look like a normal person, you're showing that you're a normal person. And I do sometimes think, like, you know, these big artists, when they're making such high quality content, it almost feels like a little bit removed from the everyday person. It's like shot on such expensive equipment and expensive sets. Huge high budget visual recording setup can just look a little bit inauthentic sometimes. So lean into the fact that you're an independent artist just starting out. You don't have a lot of money, but you still really want to connect with your audience. The things that I do spend money on as an independent artist are session musicians. My music and my style of music and my style of songwriting is so dependent on session musicians, because I need all of my parts recorded by live instruments. Need might be a strong word, it's my preference. Session musicians and having your music recorded by live instrumentalists, I feel like it gives my music such an organic feel and such a natural feel. And for the type of music that I love as well, you know, I love jazz music, I love blues music, I love old school rock music. It's all live instruments, and that's something that I want to emulate. I do feel like the humanness really comes through in all of my recordings, so I do spend money on session musicians. If you want the same and you don't want your music to sound kind of robotic, especially if you're working in the same genres as I am, you know, jazz, blues, soul, that kind of vibe, live instrumentalists do make all the difference. It's beautiful as well sometimes, because I feel like I get a lot of value out of the money that I spend on session musicians, because often there will be a bit of back and forth of them going, oh, I actually think this might work a little bit better, or why don't we shift this here, and it evolves to something really playable for the instrumentalist, which sometimes I fail at in my writing because I don't play all the instruments. Then ultimately it just sounds so lovely and wonderfully organic, which is exactly what I want from my music. So I do spend there. I also do spend money on my mixing engineer and my mastering engineer, the same guy. He does, the guy I've been using recently is called Jacob Bush. He's lovely. He does the mixing and mastering, so I do pay him for his time for that. But paying session musicians, paying my mixing and mastering engineer, paying my distributor the yearly fee, those are the only 3 costs that I have for my music. And I say only, they are big costs, but I do not waste money on meta ads and social media advertising. Not worth it. Organic content all the way. People as well will feel so lucky to have found you right at the beginning of your journey. With organic growth, you can see what songs people react to the best. If you haven't paid for advertisements, you haven't, that is another thing that you should never ever spend your money on. Playlist placements. What a scam. I've been seeing this website, app, whatever it is, called Unheard around everywhere at the moment, saying you can pay for a playlist placement for only $6.99. What a rip-off. What an absolute rip-off. $6.99 to go in one playlist, and I don't even think you're guaranteed a playlist placement with that. I'm going to be really transparent with you guys here. I was a little bit tempted because I thought this seems too good to be true. So I downloaded the app and I went through the whole process of trying to see to get my song on a playlist. I did not pay for anything because the moment that I got to the playlist pitching thing, I thought, before I pitch to these, I'm going to find them on Spotify. They are all bot playlists. They're just fake playlists that don't have any saves, they don't have any followers, they don't have any organic interaction. They come up so far down the Spotify search thing, and all of the people on those playlists, you can just tell that they've paid to be on those playlists, because I listened to some of the songs and the songs are not cohesive, and the one thing that people want from their playlists is a cohesive sound. So absolute scam. Never ever pay for playlist placement. That's really hard to say. Pay for playlist placement. That's that tongue twister from My Fair Lady. What is that? Oh yeah, the rain in Spain saves Millie in the plane. Never pay for playlist placement. Never ever pay as well for blog placement. Again, another scam. Money-making scam. I wouldn't pay for fancy photography either. You might want to get some nice photographs done for your cover artwork. I personally don't think there's any point, especially if you're working to such a tight budget. It always just comes back to the fact that you need to make really, really good music that people connect with. So whatever budget you do have as a growing, starting out independent artist, I think needs to be spent on making good music, and everything else you should kind of figure out how to do for yourself for free, which is so simple. Making your cover art, you can literally take a photo of yourself with your phone. There are so many free editing apps. I use Tezza quite a lot to just make my photos have that kind of film grain aesthetic. Yeah, okay, they don't look the most professional, but at least I haven't wasted any money on a professional photographer session, which I don't think is worth it as an artist who's starting out. If you're a few years down the line and you've got a bigger audience and you know that you're gonna really, really benefit from having a more professional looking Instagram, then of course, but only if you have the excess budget for that. I don't think it's worth it when you're working to such a tight budget. Do not pay for influencer marketing. Another scam as an independent artist, because as an independent artist you are working with such a limited budget. Spending any money on advertising is just a waste, in my opinion, because those influencers, they're going to maybe lip sync to your song for 15 seconds and then it will just get buried in the algorithm again. If you're going to spend money on advertising, you're going to need to be spending so much to cut through all of the noise, so it's just not worth it. And organic growth is always better. It's longer, but it's way more sustainable. Do not fall into the trap of paying for management or paying for PR or anything like that. Again, I think another big waste of time as an independent artist starting out. You should never ever be paying a manager an upfront cost either, in my opinion. It should always be commission based, because then especially when you're starting out, I don't know what it's like for the huge artists. Their managers might be on salaries from the record labels, but paying a manager upfront, again, is going to be a huge waste of money. Paying to play, I get it. As an independent artist, you want to be gigging because that's where your heart is. You love connecting to an audience and you want to perform your music live, but paying to be in a music lineup, forget about it. It's better not to perform than to pay to be in a lineup. I've had some artists that I know pay to be in a mini festival slot, and you're just not going to reap the rewards that you want from something like that. Ultimately, and again, would like to stress that this is all my opinion, as an independent artist starting out, spend your money, if you do have money to spend, on getting good equipment and making good songs, and everything else will come later, because it's a long process. It's a long old game, this. If you're entering into the music industry industry, you cannot expect success straight away. It's a long game. They say it takes 10 years to make an overnight success. So it's about budget prioritization at the beginning to make sure that you can consistently release music if that is your goal. And yeah, about not wasting your money, because money is precious. We are on limited budgets, so we need to make those budgets stretch as long as possible. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Love you all.